how do you compartmentalize, or is there a ritual or something to do to like acknowledge that but still stay focused? Is there a way to navigate that? Because I think that that's definitely a struggle for people, even if they're stressed out about their relationship, right? Like if you're having a problem with your partner, that's very distracting, and you still want to have self-discipline and you still want to be productive. What do you do to kind of like navigate those things?
Here's it's been all my philosophy. Number one in my life is my beautiful wife, Barbara, who's right next to me. So mom comes first. Her well-being, everything is secondary to that. And then, of course, our law in our house, and it is that kids come first.
Welcome to the Brian Tracy Experience. I'm Christina Tracy Stein, and here we are with my brothers Michael and David, and of course, the Brian Tracy.
We have an exciting episode planned for you all. The theme today is focused work. Since we live in an age of distraction, it's a very prescient topic. When did you discover the power of focused work?
Well, what I've discovered in time management is that all success comes from getting results that people will pay you for. And people who are paid a lot are paid because they get more and better and more valued and more valuable results. And the key is focus. So you don't get paid. This is very important. You don't get paid for going to work and coming home. You get paid for getting specific results that are of value to other people. And your job is to think, how do I get more and better results? Some people, the 80-20 rule, 20% of people earn 80% of the money in our society. Why? It's because they focus on the most important task or result that they can get, and they discipline themselves to work nonstop until it's complete. Now, this is one of the most important things of all. Solzhenitsyn said this, that average people take something to 95%, and then they kind of back off and take a break and go home for the weekend, and then they go back on Monday. No, you don't get paid for working on a task. You get paid for completing a task. And which tasks do you get paid the most for? The ones that are the most valuable. So you have to say, what if I could only do one thing before I was called out of town for a month? What one task would I be sure to complete? And the answer is obvious. It always pops up. And then what you do is you discipline yourself, hardest thing of all in the whole world, self-control, to work only on that until it's done.
So, Dad, do you have any tips, though? Because, right, we do live in an age of distraction. People are, picking their main, most important task and having to stay focused. Is there any guidance or suggestions you can make in terms of how to really tap into that focus?
There's three keys. Number one is write it down. Number two, write it down. Number three, write it down. Is when you write down the task so that it's clear in front of you. And then if you are even more determined, or if it's a complex task, then make a list of everything that you can do to achieve that task. Then organize the list. This helps you organize your mind and get you organized, get you focused, get you motivated, and then start on step number one, then step number two, and just keep yourself, we say, hold your own feet to the fire. Because if you can't do that, you'll always have to work for someone else who will hold your feet to the fire, who will discipline you, who will withhold income and advancement. So you don't want to be the slave of someone else. You become your own person. You become your own boss.
So do you have a specific ritual? It's like some people prepare to focus that gives you that kind of time and space to actually get things done. How do you limit your distractions? Maybe you can describe something in terms of your particular practice, because I feel like everybody's different. But I've read a lot of books about, obviously lots of Dad's books, but also other people's successful books. And it seems like all successful people have their own process or ritual to get into that space where you can actually do focused work.
I think for me, it has a lot to do with like the space I'm in. So I say my focus kind of coordinates with context. I have an office, as you can see behind me, that like when I come into my office, I close the door. I actually have a sign on the outside because it's a home office that says, do not disturb. And so when I come in, I make sure my desk is clear. And then like Dad said, I have a list. I have the main goal. I have the steps that I want to take. And then usually when I'm trying to get myself motivated or keep myself focused, when I want to get distracted, I come up with what I call like the carrot or the stick. And so I come up with a carrot, which is some kind of reward, or at least I acknowledge a reward once I complete the task. But then I also come up with like a stick, some kind of punishment or consequence in my mind. Like if I don't get this done, here's what's going to happen. This will be the consequence. So when I'm working in my space and I find myself distracted, right? Like I hear something or whatever, that's how I bring myself back, is like, stay focused. This is the task. Here's what you're going to gain. Here's what you'll lose if you don't get it done. And that helps me really stay focused.
Yeah.
Is there a time that you find you can get into a flow state throughout the
Well,
day?
It's usually first thing in the morning. There's a question that I used to teach to my audiences. I say, imagine your boss came to you and said, look, I just was at a party last night and I won 2 weeks at this beautiful resort in Mexico. Everything all paid for, airplanes, but I can't go. And if I don't use it, I'll lose it. So if you can get all your work done for the week by 5 o'clock today, I'll give you the 2 tickets for you and your spouse. Take a 2-week vacation in the tropics. Can you get everything done by the end of the day? At that kind of an incentive, you would become one of the most productive people. People come up to you, hey, have you got a minute to chat? Are you kidding? You would say, no, I've got to get this done. If I get this done, I can go on this. In other words, give yourself an incentive of any kind, or even an imaginary incentive to get things completed, and you'll be amazed at how much you will do. Now, there's a time management expert who says these words, I will work now. So they sit down and they say, I will work now. And they drive themselves, they motivate themselves like a cheerleader into starting. And they say, well begun is half done. You get started on it and you discipline yourself to get going. And then you set a time limit. Now, there's a time management technique. It consists of starting and working for 25 minutes nonstop. And you get into the habit of working with concentration. Concentration is one of the most important skills that an adult can develop. The ability to concentrate single-mindedly on one thing, the most important thing, is the key to your success in life. If you can't do that, you must always work for someone who will supervise you and direct you and guide you, and who has to be paid. And where does the payment come from for the bosses? It comes out of your paycheck. So you have to earn less so your boss can make sure that you do your work.
Yeah, Dad, you used to talk about in your seminars how you wouldn't go more than 10 or 15 minutes without either asking the audience a question or getting them to stand up or getting them to laugh. And all 3 of those things require them to sort of take a mental break and move so that they could continue to refocus. So doing those things for yourself is important as well.
My concern was always that my audience was entertained. We call this edutainment, is that I taught them really valuable stuff. But you and I have talked about the windshield wiper method, where we give a fact, story, back, forth, and it keeps the whole brain active. And the one compliment that I just really love is that people say, at the end of the day, instead of being tired or exhausted from a whole day of seminaring, people are energized and they're happy and they're talking and they're looking forward to the evening because their brain was not tired out. Their brain was energized the whole day. So that's the sort of thing that you need to do to yourself as well. And little breaks, going for walks, exercises, even watching a couple of minutes of TV. Just put on a movie and watch 5 minutes of a movie, then get back to work again. What they found, by the way, is if you're working and you get distracted by responding to emails or telephone calls, it takes an average of 17 minutes for you to get back into your work and start being productive again. So the starting point is just turn it off. The 80-20 rule applies everywhere. 80% of your interruptions are of no value or no use to you. Only 20% are of any value. And of those 20%, only 20% are really important. So leaving things off is one of the smartest things you can do. Remember, the difference between leaders, top people, are leaders think long-term. And they think of what they do today in terms of its long-term results or effects on their life. And so when you think long-term, the key is for you to be valuable. And being valuable means that you produce stuff, you get stuff done, and that people value, and you shut down everything else. You discipline yourself to keep focused on things that are of most value and just refuse to do it. We say just say no to anything that is not of high value.
So, but Dad, if you're, let's say, maybe you can relate to, like, if you're tired or if you're not feeling 100% health-wise, right? Or you're in pain. Like, these are all things that distract people and make it harder to focus.
So Christina, I can try to answer that question. I have these 3 mental triggers that I use. The first one is if ever I say to myself, well, that would be really uncomfortable, then I have to do it, right? It's like, that's the direction in which I grow, is the direction of discomfort, because you can't grow in a state of comfort.
Right.
The second mental trigger is inconvenient. So if ever I say, oh, that'd be really inconvenient. Like today, I was like, it'd be super inconvenient to get on this podcast because I have to run a generator and I have to link up my Starlink, and then I have to make sure everything's charged. And I've got to monitor my connection, and it's like, it's super inconvenient. But at the same time, a little voice inside my head goes, if it's inconvenient, you have to do it, right? That's the point. That's the discipline. And then the third mental trigger is whenever I say to myself, I'm going to do it later. You have to do it now. Do it now, do it now, do it now. So those are the three things. So when, and everything that's like discipline is kind of overcoming that stress response to getting what you need to get done. Your ability to make yourself do what you should do when you should do it.
So maybe this is like a girl thing versus a boy thing, because like I know that as a mother with children, right? Like I feel like it's typically my primary responsibility to make sure my kids are okay. So when my kids are struggling in some way, or they're ill, or there's a problem, that tends to be very distracting for me, right? Like I have to really fight that. And I don't know, maybe it's different because you guys have different relationship agreements or whatever with your partners in terms of, you delegate that kind of primary responsibility. But I think for me, and that's kind of what I'm curious about, is when you have like a life stressor. So like if something is maybe emotionally wrong or stressful, how do you compartmentalize? Or is there a ritual or something to do to like acknowledge that, but still stay focused? Is there a way to navigate that? Because I think that that's definitely a struggle for people, even if they're stressed out about their relationship, right? Like if you're having a problem with your partner, that's very distracting, and you still want to have self-discipline and you still want to be productive. What do you do to kind of like navigate those things?
Here's my philosophy. Number one in my life is my beautiful wife, Barbara, who's right next to me. So mom comes first. Her well-being, everything is secondary to that. And then, of course, our law in our house, and it is that kids come first. And it's always been our philosophy. So when we had a large staff, we had 3 or 4 young mothers who were staff members, and they had little kids. And little kids have needs. They have to go to the doctor, or they're sick. And so they would come and they would say, my child is this and that, and can I take some time off? So we had a policy, and the policy was kids come first. If you have any need at all with regard to your children, you can get up, you can go, you can spend as long as you need to take care of your child. It'll never be deducted, nothing, there will never be any recrimination for it. Kids come first. First of all, your primary relationship, and second of all, your children. Now, once you've decided that, well, then you don't have to debate it anymore. One of your rules is I never tell a lie. I never tell a lie. So therefore, once you determine that, then you don't have to think about it again. It's a done deal, as we used to say. And that's one of the ways to focus and concentrate and get things done. You say, I will work now. I will work for 25 minutes nonstop, and then I'll stand up, stretch, take a break.
I see it like, if you wait until everybody in your life is okay for you to be efficient at doing something, then you're never going to have an opportunity to start, because there's no time in your life where everybody's okay. Yeah. So the discipline that Dad talks about is being able to do something when people aren't okay, or being able to do something when you are tired or when you are afraid. Yeah. You can't wait until you think that there's no there, right? We talked about that. And so if you wait for the there, you'll never start, and you put all your dreams on the back burner. So.
But maybe it's also important to acknowledge that, like, if you're saying kids come first or your marriage comes first, that like those things, right, those relationships, those people, and if those scenarios are not okay, then that can be a pretty significant distraction when you're trying to have self-discipline. So even maybe acknowledging like, okay, I'm having this issue, but I have to pause and focus here and then go back to resolving this issue or taking care of this relationship. I just think it's very important. Like people, I think sometimes if they don't acknowledge when things are not okay, they try to sort of just move forward without acknowledging it. They tend not to be as productive or as focused, because somewhere in there is this distraction about a primary relationship that's really important to them.
Yeah, the other thing too, Dad, that you used to recommend is a brain dump, where before you get started on focused work, you pull out a piece of paper and a pen and you just dump everything out and just write it out until there's nothing left. And then you shift and you go into the focused work.
I need to tell you a quick story. When I was single, I had a friend who was a woman, and she was kind of messed up. And she told me once, she said that probably the reason she's messed up is when she was young, she would go to her mother for attention. Her mother would read her, and the mother would say, "Get away from me, I'm reading. Get away from me, I'm reading." stop bothering me. I'm reading. And so she got this idea that the reading, whatever her mother was reading, was more important than she was. And it affected her self-esteem and her relationships as an adult. And so I made the decision that if ever any of my children wanted to talk to me, and I was reading, because I read all the time, I'm a bibliophile, they call it, I would stop reading. I remember Christina would come, and she'd be 6, 7 years old, and I'd be sitting there reading, and she'd come and she'd sort of stand around, and I would realize it. And instead of just closing the book or on my lap, I closed the book and put it away. So I had nothing between me and Christina. And she would watch, and then she'd say, okay, and she'd get up and walk away. She would just wanted to make sure that she was more important than I was reading.
Testing you.
Did this on a regular basis. She would come and test. And so whatever I did, I closed the book and put it aside and focused on her. I think she's turned out okay. Total attention to you, even today, as I stop doing whatever I'm doing and focus full face on what you're saying and what you're thinking until you are satisfied or finished, and then I'll go back to work. I always came first.
Prioritize the distractions before you start, and if it's something important, you'll allow it to take you off of your mission. But if it's not important enough, you'll keep going.
There's a great piece of advice that if you're a boss, if you're have people reporting to you, give them 1 hour every week and have them create an agenda of the things that they're concerned about, questions that they have, and so on. And 1 hour each week, specific, pick a time, 10 to 11, 3 to 4, and so on. And this is their hour with the boss. And you close the door and you shut off all the distractions and you focus single-mindedly on talking to them and asking them questions and answering their questions and so on, 1 hour per week. And if you do this, this is called the hour of power. If you do this, you're going to have the happiest and the most productive people working for you. And they're going to think you're the best boss they ever had. And so it's really important is to called focused, concentrated time, facing squarely, looking at the person, listening, not interrupting. It's one of the greatest compliments that you can give another person is totally focused attention. And if you'll do that, you'll be amazed at what you will learn. Have them always write out an agenda. This is your staff. Have them write out a list of things they want to discuss. One of the questions that you have them come to you with is, what is the most important thing that you want me to do? Of all the things that I could do, what is the most important? What's number one? What I discovered is that many bosses don't know for sure. They know you're supposed to do several things, but they don't know them, haven't thought about them in order. So if you ask them, what is the preferred order of what I do? What do you want me to do first? Complete second, complete third. That will make you one of the most valuable people in your company, not only to yourself, but to your boss and to your future.
Would you say that, sustained present attention is kind of like a muscle, right? You have to develop it because, with the TikTok generation, I think people have very short attention spans.
Yes. How many people who are with short attention spans are really successful? How many people make a lot of money, make a valuable contribution, get promoted? Very few, maybe none. All success requires single-minded concentration, clarity. Remember, we talked about clarity. Be clear about the most valuable thing you do. And then, as you say, focus, single-minded. That's the key to high productivity. High productivity comes if you just keep working away at one important thing.
You said that it takes 17 minutes to get back on task, but like if you make a list of your tasks and you make create the steps, but then you complete the task, that almost like propels you to being more focused and more motivated to complete the next task. Because it's sort of like you're playing a game with yourself.
One of the greatest mantras is back to work. Back to work. If somebody interrupts you because they want to just shoot the breeze, you say, I'd love to talk to you now. Let's talk later. Right now, I have to get back to work. Back to work. And it's interesting. In any language, there's people feel guilty if they're interrupting you from getting back to work. So when you say, I have to get back to work, they say, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll talk later. So back to work actually drives people away.
Well, you're reminding them that they need to get back to work too.
Yeah.
Just slowing down the process a bit enables you to understand it at a far greater level than if you just start talking. Remember, when you are talking, it takes 100% of your attention to talk. It's when you are listening, then you have 100% of your attention to apply to everything around you. And listen, really, really important. in terms of high productivity.
In sales conversations, they talk about the importance of mirroring your prospect or your client. So you almost have to read them a little bit. If they're relaxed in their chair, you're relaxed in your chair. If you match their rate of speech, so if they're speaking slowly, you speak slowly. If you match their volume, and you just basically take all of your cues from that person, because that's how they're communicating, and so you need to be able to communicate with them on their level. Absolutely, I like the idea of volume, because that's one of the first things that you try to match is the volume of the other person. Not you don't try to elevate the volume and get loud and get crazy. And sometimes, like, especially with body posture too, there's something called when you're sitting across from somebody in in a business conversation, there tends to be almost an adverse reaction to that. Whereas if you sit next to them, and automatically just changing the body posture turns you into collaborators instead of adversaries. So there's just like little tiny things that you can do.
Yeah.
There's an interesting point you just reminded me of. It's called focused attention. When you give a person focused attention, it affects their self-esteem, it affects their energy levels, that releases endorphins in their brain. So they say that focused attention is the highest form of flattery. Focused attention, when you really listen closely and nod and smile and don't interrupt, it's the highest form of flattery. It makes people feel happy and valuable and important and so on. And so you can actually control the room, if you like, by listening. And you can control the other person by asking questions and then listening intently to the answers. Interrupting is like picking the chair out from under a person. Listening with focused attention is like giving them a massage. It makes them happy, makes them feel comfortable. Now, your question at the beginning, Michael, is as productivity. I'm now working on a book, 12 chapters, and I've been doing my research for a couple of months now, actually about 30 years, and it's on productivity. It's a 12-chapter book on how you can be 2, 3, 4, 5 times as productive as you are today. And it's going to be sort of on top of time management. Like Eat That Frog is now the best-selling book on time management in the world in 55 languages. And this is going to be sort of on top of that. It's also going to be an extremely good book. People say with regard to time management, not procrastinating, that it changed their life, it made them rich. Well, the book on productivity is going to also change their life and make them rich.
Yeah, speaking of getting things done, I've noticed that like even the most complicated tasks can now be almost like incrementally chopped up into a bunch of small tasks, especially using AI. So with ChatGPT, I can say, I want to get this like really complicated project done. Like, what? Could you just give me a step by step, right, of everything I'll need to do to get it completed, and also like, give me like the skills that I'll need to get it done, and then tell me what you can do, that I don't even know that you're capable of doing, so that I don't necessarily have to do all these other tertiary tasks, and it will give me a full-on action plan, step-by-step instructions. It will outline the certain skills. It'll tell me exactly what ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using can do in lieu of me doing it for myself. And it's really impressive when it comes to like getting things done. Like most people kind of like are stuck in that first step moment where they're like, well, what do I do first? How do I start?
Our in-house expert, Lanny Morton, whose daughter was helping us get started today, has developed a system as of the last 2 weeks, a more advanced system than anything else in history on how to write a book and actually get it produced by Amazon and available in the world market in 7 days. And it's an extraordinary process that he's developed. And so if people want information on how to use AI to write and publish a book, again, let us know, and we will pass on the information to our friends who will contact you and show you how it's done and how to do it.
Just a few weeks ago, they launched the Agent Mode on ChatGPT.
Yes.
And it's essentially what that is when you ask the agent to do something, it launches its own desktop, like a virtual desktop, and then it places an AI agent in front of that desktop, and that AI agent can now browse the internet, fill out forms for you, find the most efficient flights, the least expensive. It can go and research something on your behalf. It can pull like all the neuropsychological techniques that have been discovered in the last 36 months to increase productivity and focus. It can do comparative analysis on what nootropics you should take to maintain that focus over time. I mean, it is just so insane that, even if you jump in with both feet, you're still not moving fast enough.
Lanny has given me several examples of asking a very convoluted, complicated question, like, tell me what I would need to do if I was going to go to Europe and I only wanted to visit 7 countries, but I have a budget of this amount of money, and what flights should I take, and where should I start? Where should I go after that? What hotels should I stay at? What restaurants should I eat at? Where should I visit? And what are the musts and wants? And so you ask this question, it goes on and on and on and on, and then just push what you talked about, the agent button, and it comes out with a complete itinerary. Tells you where you want to go and how to go. It's just
and not only that, that is after it comes out with a complete itinerary, after it's researched all the flights and all the restaurant reservations and all these things, it will say like, would you like me to book these things for you? And you can say yes. It's like, and it's like, I'm going to use this credit card in your Apple wallet to book all these things, and it will go and book. It will book the flights. It will put in your TSA pre-check numbers, your passport information. It will do all of that for you, and you will have a full European adventure planned in 30 minutes, and everything's booked, and all the receipts are in your email.
Like Dad's goals process. It's just now it's just AI is taking over. But that's what he's wearing the shirt, right? Create a goal, break it down into actionable steps, and then go through the steps.
I mean, that would be like the best, easiest use case for AI is, this is my goal. I want to achieve it in the next 30 days. Tell me everything that I need to do to achieve my goal. And it will do that. It will give you the incremental step-by-step process to get it done.
I mean, I guess, but that's what Dad's been doing for the last 40 years.
Yeah, but this accelerates it. So what's cool is you can even say, based on Brian Tracy's methodology, goal-setting methodology, I want to accomplish this goal. Here's my goal. Like, what do I do? And then so you're basically relieving of yourself of figuring out the steps to take, and then you can just start. You can begin, and that's the hardest part of task completion, is just starting.
And the discipline to stay on task, which AI can't help you do yet.
But that's why you need the carrot or the stick. You need the reward to give you the motivation, and you need the stick to give you a consequence.
The most important point here, it has to do with time, is your most valuable asset. Your time is your life. And what AI does is it saves you time in accomplishing even better, bigger, more valuable goals. It's right to the point where Lanny teaches that you should never write anything ever again. Everything should be spoken. And so he'll say, he told me how this works. Now, we got a letter from someone who said, we want to bill for $100,000 for teaching this subject, which had to do with business success. We will sue him for $1 million. But your time, the amount of time it takes you to put the stuff together, to earn the money, to pay for the lawyer, and so your time is really valuable. It's your life, and AI can save an enormous amount of time in getting a higher quality result than you ever dreamed possible. So ask them and experiment with really complicated questions.
So would you say if you're just starting out and you're just setting goals, if you're not using AI in conjunction with all of your material, then you're going to get left behind, basically? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
If your competitor is is using AI and it takes them 2 hours to do what it takes you 20 hours to do, I mean, you compound that over just, a few weeks, and you're so far behind that you think you're first. So you definitely have to jump in with both feet and use it, because it is exactly what Dad said. It's time. Your time is your life. Like, on my monitor, and it just says use AI. And I keep on going back to my default mode of, I've got to do this. I've got to respond to this lengthy email. And what I realized is I can copy and paste that email into ChatGPT and say, hey, I would like to respond to this email like thoughtfully. And I'd like to address these 3 points. And I go enter. And it, 20, 30 minute written response to an email now takes 1 minute. And I just copy and paste the answer and I say send. And now with agent mode, I can just say, go send it for me. Like, open all my emails and then tell me what's relevant and what I need to respond to today. And then draft some responses for my approval. It's literally having your own admin, secretary, virtual assistant, all wrapped up into one thing.
Everything in life is results. And what AI does, and all of these things do, is they help you get results faster. And so you think of it in terms of your income, the amount of money that you earn is the more and better and more valuable results you get, the more money you will earn. And AI short-circuits the process of learning. And now with AI, you can learn these subjects that will help you to become more valuable and earn more money. You can learn them faster and easier than has ever been possible in history. But 80% of people don't learn after they leave high school, after they leave college. They just stop learning and they coast. And the problem with coasting is that you can only do it in one direction, to a greater or lesser degree, coasting. So that you're absolutely right, all of you, especially Michael, with regard to AI. It takes an investment. You have to spend a good deal of time to really understand AI. But then you can use it for the rest of your life, and you can keep current, and keep current, and keep current, and learn more and more, and add it on to your existing knowledge base.
Yeah, we do have a pretty good question about AI, and it's from Eric Swanson. He's talking about will we need a personal touch? Like, you're still going to need a personal touch in personal relationships. You're not going to be able to outsource that to AI.
You know, you have to, like, if you want to get oil out of the ground, you have to drill. If you want to get value out of AI, you're going to have to drill. You're going to have to work hard initially, but the payoff is extraordinary and it's lifelong. So absolutely, yes. Keep investing in yourself and developing your proficiencies and skills, and combined with each other proficiency and skills, you can become one of the most valuable people in your world. And AI is one of the things you can do: reading books, managing your time, producing more, starting earlier, working harder, staying later. They're all ways to increase your value to others. And if you focus on increasing your value, the money will follow. Is do an excellent job, and the money will follow. And that's really important. So productivity.
This has been another wonderful episode of the Brian Tracy Experience. Thank you, David, for co-hosting, and Christina. Appreciate you guys. And of course, the Brian Tracy himself. Thanks, Dad. We love you. Have a great day. We'll see each other soon.
Thanks, everybody. See you
Bye,
next
everyone.